I
Yeah.
might have to move to Florida for a month just to get away. Like, I thought that was the whole reason I came here, was to get away from the cold. It's freezing here today. I was wearing a winter coat
That's
walking the dog this morning.
crazy. I know, that really is crazy. Like, we
That's
took
what it
off
is.
from Milwaukee last night after the Atlanta Hawks won. Woo-hoo, tooting our
Big win.
horn. It's actually crazy. Just a quick shout out to my Atlanta Hawks, because the Milwaukee
Sure.
Bucks are 1-2 against the Atlanta Hawks this season, and then they're 9-1 against the rest of the NBA. So the Hawks have their number right now, which I really like to see. But we
That'd be a
took
fun
off,
playoff series.
and it was freezing. It would be a good playoff series. It was freezing in Milwaukee, and we landed in Atlanta at like 2:33 a.m. last night, or this morning, I guess. 6 hours ago. And it was the same temperature. I'm like, what the heck is going on right now?
Freaking
Get
crazy.
it out. It's blasphemy. It's blasphemy.
That is blasphemy. That is blasphemy. Wow, you deserve to be much
I need to
more
write a
upset
letter
than me.
to somebody. I'm writing a
For real.
letter. Put it in the suggestion box. Wild.
Write a letter
wanna
to
know what else
Santa.
is wild? Yeah, he's coming soon. 1 month and a half. Which, by the way, I have an off day today. Guess what is going up in my house, Jared? The Christmas tree, because it happens before Thanksgiving. I know.
Well,
It's
see, but this is
wonderful
I never put up a
time.
Christmas tree because I'm Jewish. Maybe I should put one up this year. Maybe I should.
It brings
join
a holiday
party.
spirit, I will say. Yeah, you could decorate it with a bunch of things that you use during Hanukkah. Why not? You call it a Hanukkah tree.
Hanukkah, see, that's a common misconception. Hanukkah's not a very important holiday in the Jewish faith. Like, people consider it like on par with Christmas. But if I had to put Hanukkah in like the Jew power ratings, it would be like the 5th most important holiday. I know that sounds crazy.
So I have a Christmas tree, and you can have a Hanukkah bush or Hanukkah tree.
The Hanukkah bush, yeah. Everyone loves a Hanukkah bush, of course.
Yeah, so why not? It's the holiday season, baby. Let's go, even though it doesn't feel like it outside. You want to know who's celebrating last night like it's a holiday? The Washington Commanders and Taylor Heineke himself, who didn't necessarily have the best game, but I mean, wow. They took advantage of the Eagles' one weakness, which is their run defense. They took advantage. Commanders' time of possession, 40 minutes and 24 seconds. Eagles' time of possession, 19 minutes and 36 seconds. It's wild. They really didn't let Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' offense get on the field, like, at all. Really good clock management and game script by the Washington Commanders. What did you see from them in that game that allowed them to pull off a win?
Well, I think we were naive to think that the Eagles were going 17-0. Now, I don't think we expected the 11.5-point underdog Commanders on road soil in primetime to be the team that ended the undefeated streak. But I think it's fair to say that it's probably a good thing for Philly to get this loss out of the way. They made a ton of mistakes. They turned it over. There were silly penalties. Jalen Hurts played okay. Like, I'm looking at the numbers right now. He was a positive EPA per play. He was a pretty solid ADOT, completion percentage over expectations, slightly negative. It wasn't his best game of the season, but it wasn't his worst. And it wasn't one of those performances where you're like, oh my God, Jalen Hurts, sound the alarm, he's bad. But it was just one of those games where the Eagles just kind of had the bugaboo. Like, you know, they make a great play with Quez Watkins down the field. He gets up, he's running to the end zone, and then boom, the ball comes out. Like, the refs missed a bunch of calls on both sides, but it was not a very well officiated game. It was a sloppy game. It was a primetime game, despite the fact that there was a lot of eyeballs on Philly. They didn't give us their best stuff last night. They still were in the game. Like, they still could have very easily won that game. And if Taylor Heineke's penalty, you know, that was a flop, by the way. Complete flop on that last drive. Total flop. Good for him for selling it, but you saw his reaction afterwards. It was a flop.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't happen and Philly gets one more shot, and I think most of us agree they probably should have gotten one more shot, they might have won that game. So I don't really downgrade the Eagles too much. I give a hat tip to Ron Rivera and his squad. They came in there with a good game plan. They executed it. They ran the football. Taylor made just enough plays, and they beat a divisional opponent. Those divisional games are nuts. I don't care how big the spreads are. Anything could happen in those divisional games. Those teams know each other very well. And shout out Club TA all over the 11.5 last night. I know you guys gave it out on the show too. So Everyone's happy. Everyone wins.
I know. I was texting with Zeno. We're like, damn, we should have taken the money line. But I mean, hindsight always 20/20, right? Taylor Heineke, though, was not the reason they won that game. My friend, I'm bringing in fantasy for 1 second. My friend ended up, like, we were in Milwaukee, and obviously the games there start an hour earlier, right? And she's like, oh, shoot, Kyler Murray's not playing. I need to start someone else. She's like, oh, I'll do it in the morning. It's late. It was like 3 a.m. when we landed in Milwaukee. I'm like, perfect. I'm like, just remember, the games start at noon. Like, whatever. It was 12:30. She texts me. She goes, damn it, Lauren. I didn't start Andy Dalton. I don't have a quarterback. I need to pick someone up. And so she had to pick up Taylor Heineke last second. And then after the Bucks-Hawks game last night, we were walking to the bus, and she goes, oh, my God, yes, the Commanders won. Like, Taylor Heineke probably put up a bunch of points. She looks at her fantasy team, 5.2 points. She goes, he is not my quarterback anymore. I'm like, oh, it's okay. I said next week he goes, I want Kyler back.
We should have Taylor on the show as an interview. He's our guy.
Oh my gosh, Taylor. Maybe, yeah. We do. We love to. Let's get into the stock report for Week 10. Started off with the AFC. The Bills 4-1 odds right now to win the Super Bowl. I still feel, Jared, and I don't know if you agree with me, like there's still good value here for that. They're going to bounce back. Allen is one of the most talented and physically gifted quarterbacks in the NFL. I know the last few weeks, obviously, he's been careless with the football. He's been dealing with that UCL injury, poor decision-making in some big-time scenarios. He needs to make smarter decisions, but the one thing that really worries me about this team right now is their defense that is impenetrable heading into the season has given up 90 points over the last 4 weeks. I think a lot of the focus right now is on Josh Allen, where more of the focus needs to be on the Bills' defense and tightening up on that side of the field because those guys right now aren't injured. Josh Allen is. He can make up for it and he can get back there, but their defense needs to buckle up and buckle down.
Very fair. Very fair to critique everything going on with the Bills right now. I think their defense is a little banged up, especially the secondary, and you know, Elam, Poyer, White, you know, hides out for the year. I would hope those other three guys, White, Poyer, and Elam, come back healthy for the stretch run at least. That is I mean, as important as Josh Allen is to this team, and let's be honest, he's more important to the city of Buffalo right now than like Hot Wings, right? He's like he is the baby. He is the golden child of Buffalo. So it's hard to critique him because of all the good things that he's done, but it's fair to also say, listen, bud, you got to stop throwing these reckless picks in the end zone. He's thrown 10 interceptions this year. So I think there's definitely some critique to have there. But on the other end of the spectrum, the defense needs to be more buttoned up. And, you know, that's what Sean McDermott does. He's a defensive coach. So I would expect that to be buttoned up. And listen, this Buffalo team, they're going through their kind of sticky wicket right now. Like they're in that stretch of divisional opponent, Vikings, but they get the Browns this week. Then they play the Lions in 2 weeks. Then they play the Patriots first week of December. That to me is the game where I would really like to see things cleaned up. So we'll see what happens this week against the Browns. They're double-digit favorites. I would expect them to win that game. I would expect them to beat the Lions on the road. And then Patriots, Jets, Dolphins, first 3 weeks of December. That's where we're going to learn a lot more about this Bills team. So right now, I think it's fair to say it's a buy low spot because they're probably going to win their next 2 games. But I really think the rubber will meet the road those first 3 weeks of December. So right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern with Buffalo. I still think they're one of the best teams on the planet, but I'm not as bullish as I was maybe a couple weeks ago.
So would you take them at 4-1 to win the Super Bowl right now?
No.
Okay, perfect.
Not low enough.
I love the roundabout way that we just all went to talk about them. No, we would not take them at plus 400.
Well, I think it's fair to question a long-term investment on a team that has a lot of injury concerns. And it's not that I don't think the Bills are the best team in the league. They're being priced as the best team in the league. But when you're priced as the best team in the league, there's only one way to go. So I better be pretty damn sure if I'm buying the top of the market that I'm getting the most bang for my buck. But I don't believe that right now because, again, I think there's a lot of question marks. And if there's a lot of question marks, probably not a smart investment to buy the top team in the market.
Yeah, totally. Dolphins, plus 250 to win the AFC East at this point. And right now it's going to be kind of a neck and neck battle. I mean, the Dolphins are 7-3, the Jets are 6-3, the Bills are 6-3. This is a close race right now, but for me, Tua is proving he is the most valuable player in the NFL this season. I feel like hands down he's going to win the MVP. Played lights out against the Browns, has the best passing this season, probably in Dolphins history, and that's saying a lot. He hasn't thrown a pick since September. That's 138 attempts without throwing a pick, knock on wood, because I don't want to knock on the wood back here because I don't want to ruin that right now. But since returning from protocol, he is the best quarterback in the league. The entire team is moving in the same direction. So many great pieces. And I feel like Mike McDaniel needs to be coach of the year at this point too. Like, a lot of that is the entire team buying in, and that's credited to the head coach. I feel like the Dolphins have bought in this point, and Tua Tagovailoa is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I know that's saying a lot with Josh Allen too, but Dolphins plus 250 to win the AFC East. Would you take them at that plus money value?
I wouldn't, but I agree with your case. Like, you lay out a very good case for Tua. I think the better bet at this point, frankly, is Tua to win the MVP. I'm seeing 5-1. And you could say McDaniel to coach of the year. We'll see what that price is right now. Yeah, that's 7-1. I mean, I think they're both correlated. So maybe you put a little on both, or you go half unit, or a full unit, and, a half unit, wherever you feel more comfortable. But the reason why Tua is the MVP is because Josh Allen's got a top 5 defense in his back pocket. Patrick Mahomes has a much better defense, I think. If you look at the Chiefs' defensive numbers over the last 2 weeks, especially their game on Sunday against Jacksonville, defensive numbers trending up in a big direction for Patty Ice and Kansas City. The Dolphins have a bottom 10, arguably bottom 5 defense this year. And Tua is the only quarterback in the league that hasn't lost the game in this realm of MVPs that he's finished. Every other quarterback's lost except for Tua. Dolphins are 7-0 in games he's finished. So, yeah, I think he's the MVP of the league. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but I don't think it's close right now, frankly. And I think at 5-1, Allen's at 5-1, Jalen's at 5-1, Patty, he's the favorite right now, basically a coin flip. I think Mahomes, because of his past, needs to really elevate. And I think the Tua, nerd numbers are very favorable. And I think if we learned anything with the NBA MVP last year, where it was Joel Embiid passing the eye test, but Nikola Jokic passing the nerd test, who ended up winning? It wasn't even close. Jokic won in a landslide. So the nerd numbers, the EPA, the CPOE, the QBR, that is very prevalent with these voters now. And they take that very seriously. And Tua's got the best nerd numbers in the league. So he's 7-0. His defense sucks. And he's leading the NFL in all of the nerd categories. Open and shut case to me.
Hello. Open and closed, baby. The one that's not necessarily closed yet, it's definitely open, though, is the Chargers to make the playoffs minus 115. It's tough because I feel like they continue to rack up injuries, and their schedule the next couple of weeks is going to get really tough. They have the Chiefs coming up next week, the Chargers the week after that, then the Raiders, then the Dolphins on December 11th, and then the Titans after that. And so they have some tough games coming up right now. They're only left at this point with 3 D linemen, injuries racking up. They came out of their bye week more hurt than they were before. Justin Herbert does look really good. But who knows, like who he's even going to be able to throw to at this point? Would you take them at minus 115 to make the playoffs?
Oh, they're a tough team. I want to buy into this Chargers so much. I was so impressed with their will, their gut, their heart on Sunday night. There was nothing about that matchup that favored them. And we talked about it all week. First of all, the market just totally poo-pooed all over them. I mean, that thing flew through 7. It was like bullish, totally. Everyone was betting San Francisco. Sharps, pros, your grandma, everyone. Everyone wanted the Niners in that game. But it didn't turn out that way. And the Niners never got outside of the number. Like, there was not one Now, there was one moment where Elijah Mitchell almost scored on that last play, but let's be honest, that was, desperation. That would have been a very favorable, fortunate cover if the Niners got there, because there was not one moment in that game that they were covering the number. And that was all will, because the Niners run the heck out of the ball, and the Chargers had like literally nobody up front to defend it. And Justin Herbert had nobody to throw to. I mean, outside of their first drive, which was scripted and executed perfectly, bing, bang, boom, right down the field in the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah.
The Chargers had the worst EPA per play on offense of any team the entire week. So that first quarter was like an anomaly. And then the other 3 quarters, the Chargers literally could not move the ball. But they block a punt, they get a couple of fortunate red zone stops, and then all of a sudden they're covering against the team that should have just dominated them. So I give the Chargers a lot of credit for hanging in that game, because a lot of, lesser teams might have quit. So yeah, I would consider them to make the playoffs. Now, this week's game is massive. In fact, I would almost rather bet them on the money line this week than them to make the playoffs, because I do think those bets are very correlated, and you're getting like plus almost 2-1 for them to win this week against the Chiefs at home in what should be, anytime those two teams play, Mahomes and Herbert, sign me up for that. So I'm excited to watch that game this week. But I would probably bet money line instead of them to make the playoffs.
It's going to be a fun game to watch. Sunday, November 20th, 8:20 p.m. Sunday Night Football. NFC, Eagles to win the NFC, 2.5-1 right now. They're tied at the top with the Vikings at 8-1. It's going to be a battle. Would you take them at 2.5-1 for the Eagles to win the NFC?
No, I've already got them at plus 375. So I wouldn't make that bet right now.
If you didn't have them at plus 375, would you take them at plus 250 at this point?
It's a fair question. No, I again, the top of the market, you know me. I don't buy the top of the market unless I know something that other people don't. And I don't really think I have that vibe on this Eagles team. I honestly think this might sound crazy. I kind of like Tampa at 7-1. Like, they were the favorite coming into the year, them in Green Bay. And am I crazy to think that they played really well? Like, we haven't talked since Sunday morning. They played really well in that game. Like, they shut down, their defense shut down Geno Smith for 3 quarters, and then things got a little weird late. I mean, that ridiculous play call by Byron Leftwich on the throwback to Brady. Like, all they have to do is just keep running the ball, and the Bucs win that game by 2 scores easily.
Yeah.
So I kind of pushed that play to a side, but I think the Bucs look right now, if you ask me, of the NFC teams that played on Sunday, besides the Vikings, who, let's be honest, that game was so crazy and weird. I have to remove it from my mind.
Yes.
But the Bucs look pretty good. Like, their defense is healthy. Brady was slinging it, and he's 2-0 since the divorce. I mean, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he puts it behind. And also, by the way, bad karma. Giselle going off to like some beach somewhere with the jiu-jitsu instructor. That's bad karma. Brady's going to get some good karma going in his direction now.
How do you know all this drama? I didn't even know she did jiu-jitsu. I can't even say that word.
Go read about that. It was all over my feed. Giselle was on some beach somewhere with a jiu-jitsu instructor. That's bad karma. They just broke up. Like a month ago. Come on, Giselle. Like, that's no bueno. I think Tom's got some good karma coming in his direction. Yeah, a little revenge Tom here.
Let's talk about the Bucs then, because right now, for them to have over 9 wins, it's priced at minus 120. You're laying 20 cents fourth. They're sitting at 5-5 right now. They won their last 2. They need 4 more wins to push, and I'm looking at their schedule. It looks possible. Browns, they have the Browns next week. Saints, Niners, Bengals, Cardinals, Panthers, Falcons. I can see probably 4 wins in there.
They're favored in every
Saints,
game
maybe, Panthers, Bucs.
First of all, they're on the bye. They're getting healthier. And they will be favored in every single game except at the Niners. And that game will likely be a pick-em-ish. Maybe Niners -1 or 2. I don't think it'll be maybe -3. But it'll be a close game.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to be like a 7-point spread or anything. But they're going to be favored in every other one of their games. They're going to be favored against the Browns. They're going to be favored at home against the Saints. They're absolutely going to be favored against the Cardinals, the Panthers, and the Falcons. That's 5 games right there they're favored in. Now, they could have obviously lose one of those games, but I'll be honest. I think the Bucs finish the year without losing a game, or one loss. I'll make like over under a half loss. The over a half will be juiced pretty high, but I would consider betting the under a half because I could absolutely see them going into San Francisco, Tom's hometown, grew up a Niners fan, and him playing an unbelievable game there. This is a very strange year in the NFL. Arguably the strangest that I can recall in recent memory, even stranger than 2020. Nothing surprises. Like in your mind, if you think Tom Brady going on like a crazy streak and playing well down the stretch, that's not that crazy. Like he's done that every year of his career, basically. So I could absolutely see the Bucs making a run.
I know. So we'll see what happens to that. So you would take them at minus 120, you'd like 20 cents for it. You want to know a team that I have not been on since week 3? You know me, you've heard my rants, the Packers right now to make the playoffs. 3.5 to 1 odds. I will say, Jared, there is enough value here to maybe intrigue me a little bit, but I still hate
you were so poo-poo in the Packers last week.
They need to go 6-1 or 5-2 down the stretch, and also need some teams ahead of them to lose. It's like they can't control their own destiny at this point to make the playoffs. I know they had a big win against the Cowboys this week, but I feel like they've lost way too many winnable games to make the playoffs. It's honestly a shame because they have so much talent on their team that deserves to be seen and watched. They haven't been playing like it, though. Now their schedule, they have the Titans still on their schedule, the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Vikings still left. That's 4 really tough games. Would you take them at 3.5 to 1 to make the playoffs?
I would consider that bet. So
I know it's intriguing. It's intriguing.
It is very intriguing. I mean, that game. So we can talk about the game on Sunday for a second because it was such a weird game that it doesn't really compute in like, oh yeah, the Packers are back. Like that's not how I felt after that game. When they were down 28-14 in the fourth quarter, I was crying. And then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, Aaron Rodgers showed up. Holy crap. And Christian Watson showed up. Finally, you saw what happened when somebody finally made a couple of plays. Like, it's not out of the realm of craziness for a team like the Packers to make the playoffs. But what has been out of the realm of craziness is the receiving group for Green Bay and how bad they've been. But you saw what could be if they just had somebody make a few plays. And based off of the way the NFL is today, it's not outside of the realm of nuttiness for a receiver to be good. Like, there's a lot of them in the league. And maybe Green Bay has one in Christian Watson if he can just stay healthy. But this is a very intriguing NFC this year. Like I just said, do you trust the Eagles as the dominant favorite? That's how they've been priced for the last month or two. And they're not that.
Yeah.
I could poke some holes in the Eagles. There may be a little attrition there. A.J. Brown didn't play well last night. Jason Kelce a little banged up front. The defense sustained
their run
a couple
defense.
Of injuries. Yeah. And now we go down the list. The Vikings, 8-1. They've won 7 straight games by 1 score. We'll see Vikings Packers in a few weeks. The Giants, the Bucs, teetering. There's at the top of the NFC, it's not exactly murderer's row here. So can they make a run? Titans, Eagles, Bears, Rams. Yeah, they could absolutely win all 4 of those games. The game at Philly on Thanksgiving night is going to be lit. Let's just leave it at this. If they beat the Titans this week, and I think they will, that game at Philly next week is going to feel like a playoff game. And it's going to be nighttime, Thanksgiving in Philly. They're going to be throwing turkey legs on the field like nutjob Philly fans. I can't wait for that game. That game's going to feel like a playoff game. And I'd be very interested what the line is, look ahead wise. And we will find out later this week. But that's the game right there. Let's just leave it at this. If that money line's longer than make the playoffs, then no. But I would consider Packers here making a run. I can't count out these quarterbacks. I can't.
I know. I feel like I've just been so off of them this season. I can't like all of a sudden buy in. But I will say there's value there, and it intrigues me a little bit. But I will not give in. I will not give in. Let's
Don't
take it from
stubborn.
men to boys.
Don't let your emotions get in the way of making a good bet.
No, but it's going 6-1. Like, come back to me after next week because I feel like going 6-1 or 5-2 down the stretch with some of the games left. It's tough. So come back to me after next week and I'll reevaluate my stance. Let's take it to college football playoff. Who do you think at this point is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4? No, in no order specifically, or if you want to give me an order, feel free to do it. Because I'm struggling a little bit here, and like I know I put my order in the rundown, but I want to hear what you think because I'm kind of struggling. Like, is it going to be Michigan in there? Is it going to be Ohio State? Is it going to be both? Is Tennessee going to make it? Is TCU going to stay in there? I mean, I feel like there's a lot of questions right now that are going on with some of these teams.
Yeah, Oregon helped us out by losing that game. Oregon made this whole process a lot easier. I'll be honest. I don't think there's a lot. Now, obviously, things could change in the next 2 weeks. But the reason why Tennessee is squarely in is because their ratings right now are so high. You can't downgrade them unless they lose. And they play South Carolina and Vanderbilt their last 2 games. So they're not going to lose those 2 games. They're going to win, and they're going to be in. So you have to operate in a world where Tennessee is squarely in. And if that's the case, I think it makes this process very easy. Georgia's the number 1 team in the country. They could even lose in the SEC championship game. If they do, things will get a little complicated, but they would still be in.
You think?
But let's just operate in a vacuum and say Georgia wins the SEC championship. Ohio State wins the Big Ten, wins the Big Ten championship. Tennessee is in at 3. Those top 3 teams. Now, you could also say Michigan beats Ohio State and wins the Big Ten. Then Michigan would be 2. You know, that 2 spot is reserved for whoever wins the Big Ten. It's either going to be Michigan or Ohio State. One of those teams is going to be undefeated. I'm operating under the assumption that it's Ohio State because they're probably going to be a touchdown favorite in that game. The 4th spot is where things get intriguing, but I'll be honest. I think you got to just tip your cap to TCU. The market was dead wrong on them.
Yeah.
I think TCU is right there. And I was wrong on them last week. I did not expect them to play as spirited defensively as they did. And you can make the case that Texas's offense was so bad that you, me, and a couple of other dudes we scooped up off the street could have defended that offense on Saturday night.
I would have gotten crushed, Jared. No chance.
I don't know. Texas was really – you might have played better than Quinn Ewers on Saturday. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's true.
He was awful. But I think you have to just give credit to TCU for overcoming what I thought was a very difficult environment. And, you know, they were a little banged up in that game. They weren't 100%. Johnson and Duggan were dealing with some, you know, nagging injuries. And at week 10, week 11, you would certainly expect that. But it was the defense that just completely surprised me. So if their defense plays that well, they're probably going to win the Big 12. And that means they're going to be undefeated. And you can't really leave them out if that's the case.
And here's the thing is TCU has more wins over teams that had above a 500 record than Michigan and Ohio State. They have 6, TCU does. Michigan has 4, Ohio State has 3. So, I mean, like their schedule is a little bit more challenging, in my opinion, Michigan and Ohio State. And I'm a Michigan Wolverine. Obviously, I want them to win the Big Ten championship, and I want them to be in. But TCU, I feel like, has been underrated. People have been kind of down on them all season. Now they're finally getting the respect that they deserve. I think that what really did them in is when Alabama, with a 1 loss, was ranked 7, and they were ranked 8th with undefeated record. I think that kind of like really lit
they were undervalued.
Under their butts. Yeah, totally undervalued. Now they're where they need to be.
Now Georgia will.
Is there a world where?
In a 1-4, like I really hope Ohio State plays Tennessee. I really want to see that game because we've already seen Georgia, Tennessee. Ohio State, TCU doesn't really do much for me. I want to see Ohio State play Tennessee. Or Michigan.
Is there a world?
But I'll be honest.
Is there a world? Yeah, stop saying Ohio State in there. Is there a world where Michigan and Ohio State are both in the college football playoff? No. Is there a world where this happens?
I guess if TCU loses. If TCU loses. And let's be honest, TCU could lose at Baylor this week. I mean, I would not expect that to happen. But maybe it does. Maybe it does. Yeah. If TCU loses to Baylor, I think TCU is going to fall so fast and so hard. Because the market's going to be like, oh, we told you so. TCU sucks. But
I know.
They showed me something on Saturday night, and it was defensively. I mean, offensively, they didn't play well. Texas's defense played fantastic. There were zero. How about this? I was looking at the advanced box score in that game. 0% red zone success rate by both teams combined. Neither team ran a successful play in the red zone in that. Now, neither team had a whole lot of red zone opportunity, but that was like a old school Big 12 slugfest. I mean, it was ugly on the offensive end. TCU's got to play better offense. They're not going to beat Ohio State or Tennessee if they play that well on offense. Let's just leave it at that.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and I have it circled on my calendar. November, right after Thanksgiving. Michigan, Ohio State, noon Eastern. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
That's the next game that's going to determine this little, obstacle course that we're running through here.
All right, let's get into our best bets today. Before we do, let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, guys, we are rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook is going to give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. All you have to do, place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total. And if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you, my friends, get a $50 bonus. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. From superbook.com to pickswise.com. 3-star play of the day, Jared. Who do we have for today?
Got a lot today. Also, some really. So I'm going to be diving into the college hoops world pretty hard.
Love that.
Pretty soon. Actually, I would say
there's a good game going on today.
There's some great games tonight. So you've got the Champions Classic tonight. You got Duke and Kansas, Michigan State,
and Indy.
Wise Guys got to play on MSU Kentucky on the site. Matt Marquardt's got Alabama, South Alabama. Heated rivalry down there in Alabama. And then we got some NBA and NHL on the site as well. So take your pick. College ball.
Love it.
NBA, NHL.
I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. You're taking it to some Northwestern.
Yeah, we got Northwestern at Georgetown.
That didn't make any sense. That didn't make any sense. I said you're taking it to – yeah, I don't know. It's a day.
You went with a southern accent for Northwestern, which is located in Chicago.
Yep, I know. I know.
All of your Big Ten friends are going to be very upset with you on that one.
Yeah, I know. Just hit me with your pick. Save me from my
I got you, dog. I got you, dog. She's really tired. She just flew in from Milwaukee. Her arms are tired. Northwestern money. Have you ever heard that joke before? I just flew in. My arms are tired. You never heard that corny joke before? When you fly, if you fly in from somewhere, your arms are going to be really tired because you're flying.
I like it. Thank you for gracing me with that.
One of my many dad jokes.
It's a dad joke. It's a dad joke.
Even though I'm not a father, I'm a dog father, maybe. Northwestern money line. So I like this Northwestern team. Chris Collins has his entire backcourt back, including the senior Boo Buie. Fantastic name game there. One of the top assist guys in the Big Ten, led the Wildcats in assists last season. Love a good senior point guard. He's actually a fifth-year senior. And they've got 4 seniors in the starting lineup. Very experienced team. No issues going on the road tonight down to Capital One Arena and taking care of a Georgetown Hoyas squad that was really bad last year. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Patrick Ewing, they're not as coach as he was player. 6-25 Georgetown was last year. And they don't have a ton of talent coming back. I mean, it's basically the same team, but again, not a very talented team that didn't win a game in the Big East all year. They're 2-0 this year, but Green Bay and Coppin State, and they needed overtime to get past Coppin State. I mean, that's not exactly murderer's row. And I think this Northwestern defense. Now, I don't love the Wildcats up front. They don't have a ton of size. Their best big man, Pete Nance, transferred to UNC. That's a shame. They brought in Tyus Van Hoven from UTEP, but they're a little thin up front. That's where Georgetown has an edge in this game, and that's why I think the line is pretty close to a pick 'em. But I think the Northwestern defense and their experience gets it done. This market's moved a little bit overnight. I saw +1, +1.5. Now it's kind of flipped to a pick 'em. I could see Northwestern closing as a favorite here. And again, I just think it's their top 40 defense after forcing a bunch of turnovers in their last game against Northern Illinois. I think Georgetown struggles a little bit to score here. And I think Northwestern has just enough experience in scoring in the backcourt to get this done. Again, the rebounding margin, something to watch tonight. But the turnover battle, I expect Northwestern to win, and I expect them to win the backcourt battle as well. So we'll take the Wildcats on the money line tonight in D.C. Go Northwestern.
I like it. Go Northwestern. Or if I want to say it in a Southern accent, go Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Right?
That's not in the
Northwestern.
South.
Yeah.
Not Southeastern.
I'm taking it to the ice. I'm taking it to the ice tonight. I have the Leafs Pens game. This is in Pittsburgh. I like the under 6.5 and plus money, plus 106. 16 games in. Both teams have had somewhat of struggles this season, but the Leafs right now sitting at second in the Metro. Penguins second to last in the Metro. They had a 7-game skid recently, but 2-0-1 in their last 3. And I know that they're looking at their home ice and they're like, yes, we're back home. Let's do this. Because they've been really, really good at home this season. But last year, I look at Toronto's offense. They were clicking on all cylinders, 3.8 goals per game. This year, they're 23rd in the NHL, only averaging about 2.8 goals per game. And they've only scored 4 more in 2 of their 16 games this season. So that's part of the reason why I like the under. They're really struggling finding the back of the net, and a lot of these games that they're winning are really close, low-scoring games. Defensively, also, they're really good at limiting other teams, which is impressive because both of their goalies are out with injury. They have their AHL goalie that stepped up, Eric Kallgren, and he's been solid. Like, he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been bad by any means, and they've been winning some of these games. The Pens back at home, they're 3-1-1 on the season there. It's so funny because I feel like they're flip-flopped. They're ranked 24th in goals against and 8th in goals per game. The last 3 weeks, the Pens have scored 4 goals. Or the last 3 games, the Pens have scored 4 goals. But I feel like here in this spot, with the way that Toronto's been playing and kind of slowing down the pace of these games, not allowing the other teams having a lot of shots on net, they're going to limit the Pens a little bit. So I really like getting the under 6.5 at plus money. I feel like this is going to be like a 4-2 game, and the under is going to hit. Maybe the Pens score 4, the Leafs score 2. The Pens have won 5 of their last 7 games against the Leafs. I was looking at the Pens money line. It's a pick-em game. Both teams at minus 110 on the money line. So I would lean that way if you want to bet a side, but I do like the under 6.5 at plus 106. Taking it to the ice. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith and Lauren Jabara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Best of luck with your bets tonight. Let's get it.